Hello?
Hello?
What's up?
Yeah, what's up? Um, so the question is, why aren't you? Sorry for my bad English. I'm French, but I'll try. Um, so I'm not Christian because I don't have a reason to be, and I do think the Bible is like a demonstration of the morals of people before us,
What do you believe?
and not a word of God. What do you mean?
What do you believe?
I believe on that matter we don't know.
So, do you believe that God exists?
Well, I'm agnostic on that. I think we don't have the capability to know currently.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not God exists. You're agnostic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't believe in the Bible because you don't think it's reliable, you say?
Not necessarily reliable, but um, I think I think it's a good testimony of the morals of people before. Like I don't think it's from a perfect being, and I think yeah, that's
Well, I
it.
think
So,
that
for
I think that
example,
there's good arguments to go to show that God exists.
what arguments?
I like the argument for motion. I like the Deontay
Yeah, well,
argument.
yeah, sure. We can go if you want on like metaphysic and just like try to think of that. But I don't think fundamentally you can prove your premises, so it doesn't really matter. Like,
Why can't I
sure.
prove my premises?
Well, for example, like, what argument do you want to show
We
me in
could
like metaphysics
we could
to
just
prove
do
me God?
like the argument for motion.
You want to run it? Like, you want to try?
Sure, change exists. By change, we mean the actualization of potential. A potential cannot actualize itself, but it must be acted upon. Therefore, whatever is moved or changed is changed by something else. This leads to a chain of actualizers, each depending on the thing prior to it to actualize its potential. This chain cannot go on forever. Therefore, it must be finite and terminate in a first. This first actualizer must be something that is purely actual, that is not moved by anything external to it.
Mm.
A being that is of pure actuality is what we mean by God. Therefore, God exists.
Sure, but this argument seems to me a bit like a special pleading for God. Um, I don't see why you would like give God the ability to be like exterior to that principle, but then not like concede that, for example, universe could be eternal in that sense.
You said not what?
Well, the
How is it
my
special pleading?
special pleading because you're you're using God as this like necessary being, sorry. And you think so. How do you logically explain the existence of God in the sense that if he's necessary, do you think he like it's a property of him to be eternal, just and you give him that property because
Yeah,
he had because
we can just deduce the things that like the attributes of this being by it being purely actual and not having any passive potency. So what the argument is going to show is that there is this being that exists that is purely actual, and we say that a being that is purely actual is what we mean by God. That's our definition for God. Therefore, since we're proving that this purely actual being exists, we would say that God
Mhm.
exists. And then we can go to show the attributes of this being and how it aligns with a classical theist definition of God by it being purely actual.
Yeah, and why can't the universe be eternal?
Eternal?
Yeah.
It You could believe it. This argument doesn't the people who put together this argument don't believe that you can prove by reason that the universe is either eternal or not eternal. So you can hold that the universe is eternal. It doesn't change the argument because we're talking about right now. We're not talking about the beginning of the universe.
Well, yeah, but the universe could be the necessary thing.
No, because the thing that we're
What?
talking about is a being that is purely actual, which means that it doesn't have any passive potency or it is incapable of change. The universe changes, therefore it would not be the purely actual being.
Well, I could think, for example, like the like we could explain the first move of an eternal universe just by a process that we don't know. That's my point.
I'm saying that if the universe changes, like you're saying that it expands, it's composed of parts, um, it it changes. right? Things fall into existence and out of existence.
Wait, but it's not because there's contingent like things in the universe that the universe is contingent. There could be contingent thing in the universe, and we don't give that property to the universe.
Yeah, no, I'm
Like
saying that. I'm
you're not
saying that.
distinguishing.
No, there's
Yeah.
things that make up the universe, right?
Yeah, sure. But
Okay,
the
so
properties of the things that make the universe don't transfer to the universe.
yeah, that's fine. So here, what's your definition of universe?
So it would be like the I know in French, like it's the ensemble of the. Let me think. Just it's like the. Wait, let me search up. How do you say ensemble? Ensemble in English. Together, in a body, like it's a whole. It's a set of things that like a set of. It's just everything basically.
Exactly. The
Everything,
universe
like that composes the.
exactly. So this purely actual being would not have the ability to be composed, nor would it have the ability to be material. Because a purely actual being would not have material, because material implies potency, and this being doesn't have potency. So
Okay,
it
but
wouldn't
can
be
you
the
define
universe.
like purely actual?
Yeah, purely actual means that it doesn't have what's called passive potency, or the ability to be acted upon. Right? So there's nothing that can change said thing.
Why does the universe need to have passive potency? I don't understand that point.
Yeah, so
You're just giving the property of contingency to the universe, universe, but you have no proving that's.
you gave a definition of the universe, of these things that compose a set of things that compose a thing to make it the universe, right? These things
Sure, but I
that
don't know the properties of the universe.
okay, these things that compose it, are they material?
Well, I don't know everything that composes the universe.
Some
That
of
by
the
definition.
things. Some of the things.
Yeah, some can be
Okay,
contingent.
so I'm sticking to a very easy point
Well,
with just
actually,
materiality.
if I try to poke in the like the premises, I could go under like how it's determinism to say, like, for example, when you say things are contingent, you mean like things are created in a sense, like, for example, a chair is a chair, or a chair is contingent because it could have been not a chair. But I could say, like, how do you define something becomes something? Like, if you
No, so
take the
here, this is what I'm saying. So if it doesn't have passive potency, if this being were material, then it would be composed of form and matter, right?
hmm
Which entails potentiality, because those forms and matter can be rearranged. This being, this purely actual being, does not have that potential.
Why?
Therefore, it is not material. So if anything in the universe has material, or the universe is composed of something that is material, it would not be this purely actual being.
Well, I could replace this purely actual being with like basically everything I want. Like you like it's a like logical leap to say that's God.
No,
We
no,
need
so
to
we can
prove
go
attributes.
to show the attributes, and then you can tell me whether or not that's God or not. But either way it goes, even before we get to the attributes, a being that is purely actual is what we mean by God. That's
So
what we
do you think
mean when we say God.
sure? Do you think an actual being is logical?
When we say being, we're saying so far we're saying that there's something that exists.
Yeah, but eternally. If it's
Do I
purely
think it's
actual.
logical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's logical that something purely actual has a first motion? So has like,
What do you mean has a first motion?
well, if he created things, he needs to like. Do you think it has intentions?
Intentions?
Yeah. Do you think the being, like the pure being, or this actual being, has intention?
Like what? Like what do you mean by
Well,
intention? Like does it have a will?
well, it created the earth, right? So it needs to do actions. It
Like
has
does
to
it
do
have
actions.
like if you're asking if it has a will, then yeah, it has a will. But we can go to show that it has like an intellect and power, so it can make decisions. But it doesn't make decisions the way in which we would say, like we would make decisions. Like it doesn't deliberate. It doesn't go from a place of not knowing to knowing. So like
Okay, but if it's perfect, so you think everything it produces is perfect?
I mean its original state, sure.
So, do you think it can choose what it produces?
Yeah, it has that capacity. So here, what
Well,
I want to make sure is that, because what a lot of I think atheist agnostic like to do is that when we run through the
mhm.
argument for motion, let's say okay, we could grant that there's this purely actual being, but we don't want to necessarily say that that's God. Now, are you granting that there is
Yeah.
this purely actual being, but you want to understand the attributes of how we get it to be God?
To be honest, I think like it's hard to reason it for me when I like I can't reason it in my own language. So like
So
to
here,
go on these deeper
so here.
metaphysical.
Yeah, cool. You can tell. We could take it step by step. You could tell me which premise you disagree with.
Yeah. Well, I like. Okay, so you do go from the premise that like the universe as a whole has to be contingent.
I
Right?
don't. I never mentioned the universe once in my premises.
Okay, so you're just talking about like the first move in that like
I'm saying
state.
change exists. I define what change is. This leads to a chain of actualizers that can't go on forever, but has to terminate in a first. This first is something that's purely actual. Otherwise, it would be a part of the chain that we're talking about. Can't go on forever. A being that is purely actual is what we mean by God. Therefore, God exists. That's all I'm saying. Never bring up the word universe.
Okay, sure. I mean, I can like we can go to the attributes if you want, if I grant that premise, but
So, all right. So there's nothing in the argument that you disagree with. So there is this purely actual being that exists.
honestly, I don't have like I don't have the baggage to argue on that. I think so.
Well,
I think
I
it
don't
comes
want
down
to.
to
I don't want to move on. Then
well, I'm saying I don't have the baggage to argue that.
that's fine. I would say look into the argument or tell me what you don't understand so we can figure out how to communicate that better.
So, well, I do have like I would be curious to talk about the Bible. Like I was a Christian before. I was raised Christian, and I do think like the Old Testament in particular, it reflects a morality that for me like it's not logical to come from a perfect being. I think you have like instances of like pure genocide in the Bible. You have slavery. Sure, you could say like it's for the context, but I don't think the context is a good reason to say slavery was moral at that time and God permitted it. I think it's
That
not
might
logical.
here. So that might be a little bit too much baggage for you to understand. So,
I don't think so, no matter.
well, we don't know because we started talking about the existence of God, and when it got to the conclusion that God existed, all of a sudden it was a little bit too much baggage for you to understand. Now we're gonna
No,
go into theology, which has
it's
a lot
because
more which has a lot more baggage than that. So I don't want to just further continue to confuse you or put you in situations that you don't necessarily understand and won't
I'm
be
not.
able to flourish. So I'll let you go ahead, look into the argument from Motion more. There's a lot of literature in French
Wait.
that you can read, and then we could talk later. Okay?
Okay. Well, I. Sure.
God bless you, man.